two people in our class were getting way more interviews than the rest of us. So we immediately looked at the resume because we were like, well, we all have the same experience basically, right? And so what we basically did was copy the format of these two guys, and then I immediately noticed a difference.
Welcome to the Junior Jobs Podcast, where we give new software engineers actionable job search advice relevant to today's job market. In today's interview, I'm talking with Melanie Wong, who recently got her first job in tech through cold applying, a method not commonly suggested here. So I'm excited to learn how she made it happen. And if you need help in your own cold application journey, this week I'm actually giving away a free 6-month LinkedIn Premium subscription valued at $180. So to enter the raffle, just let me know in the comments what industry you're transitioning from and what your ideal next role is. All right, Melanie, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us.
Thanks for having me.
So if I remember correctly, we actually connected on LinkedIn a few months ago when I asked if any juniors actually got hired from a cold application, and you were the first to raise your hand. So
Yes.
first, thank you for volunteering. Second, I have to say, I was surprised. It is not uncommon for developers that I talked to lately to say that, hey, they've sent out hundreds of applications and they've gotten crickets in response. So, really grateful to have you here because I'd love for you to help unpack your job search and what strategies do you think actually helped you stand out?
Yeah. So I think a few of the things that really helped me were, first of all, making sure my resume was really solid. And I went to a boot camp that encouraged us to follow the Google XYZ formula. And I do think that that helps a lot. So there's templates out there. If you just search it, there's articles about exactly what that is. And it will really, really help make your resume, I think, stand out. And then also is like being basically like impervious to rejection. Just apply to like, I know a lot of people don't like mass applying, but I will say that I did mass apply. I didn't do it exclusively, but what some of my cohort mates and I did right after boot camp was set up a single day a week that we got together and we just applied to as many jobs as possible with easy apply on LinkedIn, on everywhere. And yeah, and then just being impervious to rejection, like you have to expect that if you're going to apply to that many jobs, like your inbox is also going to be flooded with a whole bunch of rejections. And that's okay, it just is what it is. But along the way, you're not only mass applying. What I did was if there was a job that I was really, really interested in, or I thought really fit my skill set somehow, or I just really wanted to work at that company, I did just like put it aside and save it. And then I would take a little bit more time on that application. And so I did like probably, I would say maybe like 50 of those in my time where I just like spent a lot of time making sure that everything was tailored, like writing a really nice cover letter, which I know a lot of people don't like writing cover letters, but yeah, writing a nice cover letter, making sure that my resume did like match the job description as well as possible. And and yeah, that was kind of how I did it.
Okay, great. Good summary. Lot to unpack there. So, just for our listeners who are unfamiliar with the Google XYZ formula, can you kind of expand or describe in your own words what that looks like?
Yeah, it's where you're basically saying, oh gosh, I hope I get this right now. I achieved X by doing Y, resulting in Z. There we go. I think that's right.
The idea is you're trying to highlight your impact because it's often, or what I typically see is it's juniors putting job descriptions on their resume, which really anybody does if they have that role, but you're trying to kind of show your own particular pizzazz, right?
And you're trying to really highlight that, you did a cool thing. This is how I did this thing. And these are the awesome results that I got from doing this thing. And so that allows an interviewer or a recruiter, whoever's looking at your resume, to see like, oh, this is, yeah, like you said, the impact that
Mhm.
this person had, and this is how they did it. And yeah.
Which is often hard. I know even as a software engineer now, sometimes it's so easy to get lost in the nitty gritty of a particular task that I lose scope of like what the real business impact is, or I don't follow up to know what the business impact or value was. So if you're I
Mhm.
would say if you're still in your boot camp or you're early on in your job search, start trying to capture some stories. You talk to your boss if you're already employed in a non-technical field. Talk to other people that are in the industry or that came from your particular background to kind of get ideas for the types of examples that they shared. They're there, but they're just take a little bit of effort to uncover.
Yes, definitely. And even if you are in a boot camp, I know like I had a whole bunch of projects on my original resume and we used the XYZ formula with things like adding testing. And so it's like we implemented this many tests and it maintained this amount of test coverage. And that results in like a reduction of live code errors, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, even pitching your personal projects as or using the same formula as if it was work experience.
Mhm, yeah,
Speak
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do it with every single bullet point every time, but, as much of that as you can add in there is only gonna help.
So let's unpack that resume a little bit. So what were kind of the highlights? What was the structure of that resume? It was obviously impressive enough that based off of a piece of paper alone, people wanted to talk to you, right?
Yeah, and that actually is a bit of a funny story because, at our boot camp, we had a really strong outcomes. I went to Rhythm. We had a strong outcomes department and, they gave us a bunch of resume templates that we could use. They were all good. I originally had gone to like a 2-column formula and it looked really awesome and beautiful. And a lot of people use that kind of formula. But I found originally that I actually wasn't getting any interviews at all. But we had a really strong cohort where we got together for stand-ups and like I said, the mass supply days and all sorts of things. And what we found, we were all really open with each other and we shared like what was working, what wasn't working. We knew who was getting interviews, who wasn't. And what we found was that 2 people in our class were getting way more interviews than the rest of us. So we immediately looked at the resume because we were like, well, we all have the same experience basically, right? Except for whatever field we were coming from. Everything else was exactly the same. And so why? Why are these people getting interviews and the rest of us aren't? And so what we basically did was copy the format of these 2 guys and then, I at least I did and a bunch of us did and I immediately noticed a difference. Yeah, it was just like a single like it's like the most plain basic style, but it allows like, a lot of times when you're a junior applying to something that's, going through the applicant tracking systems. And so it has to be readable by those systems. And what I found or what I'm assuming is that the single column format, like the basic resume format just is more readable.
I love your
And so
methodology there, right? You were getting feedback on you were tracking at least like the rejection count for different tweaks that
mm,
you're making to your resume and you're adapting accordingly. Uh,
mhm.
it's not uncommon for me to see developers who send out 400 resumes. Oh no, I'm not getting any responses. And it's just the same resume they're sending out over and over again, right? Well, yes, stop it, right? Try
Yes.
something different, see how the market gauges it, and then iterate from there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was really helpful. I was talking to the people in my class and I knew that a couple of them were getting interviews. So, like it made sense to me like just change it. Do what they're doing, It's I think sometimes we like as juniors, especially coming if you're a career switcher, you like want to be special a little bit in this way, or it'd be like I need to show how I'm different or how I'm unique or whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, for this first job, you have to just do what works. Like, don't worry,
Yeah.
that's not the place necessarily or the way to show that you're special. Like, sure, you might want to show it in like the details of the resume, but even there, like, there's only going to be so much that distinguishes you from every other person that came out of a boot camp, right?
Yeah, the common approach that we talk about on the podcast is networking, talking with other industry professionals. But there's a variation of that I want to highlight here, and that is networking with other students in your same cohort. Right? You
Mhm.
are learning together, uh,
Mhm.
and you are applying the best practices from those that actually were getting interviews, and you were sharing that freely. There are enough jobs to go around. It's not like
Yes.
you shouldn't be looking at the other members of your cohort like a competition. You should celebrate each
Mhm.
other's successes, learn from them, and support
Exactly.
each other.
Our
Okay.
cohort really took an approach of like, at least it's gonna be one of like, we want it to be one of us, that gets the job. Maybe me, maybe you, whatever, but at least it's one of us out of, instead of someone from another boot camp
Yeah,
or
that's right.
something.
Ah, we hate them.
Yeah.
I love that. So you mentioned a little bit about the resume. So I want to ask a little more specifics here about some of the changes that you made. You mentioned two column to one column or one flow. What other changes did you make over on your resume over the course of that period that helped you get more interviews?
I think for me, what I was coming from, it was also like the applying the XYZ format because I hadn't done it as well in my original resume. And then really highlighting in my projects and in the internship that I had done exactly what I was working with. Because that's the other thing about the applicant tracking systems, right? They might be scanning for how many times something is listed on your resume, right? Or at least that's what a bunch of recruiters had told us. And so I did notice that this resume that I tried to kind of copy the format of, it was listing things many times, right? Like you're making sure
Okay.
you're always saying like, I used React, like all the buzzwords, like as many times as possible, if that
Yeah,
makes
every
sense.
line item for that work, that project, then the skills section, maybe in like your little about at the top.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, some people, in a way, it is repetitive, right? But
Yeah.
you want to make it overwhelmingly obvious that you
Exactly.
are the right person for this role, right?
Exactly.
The job description is going to list a few keywords, a few specific technologies, frameworks, languages, what
Yeah.
have you. And you just want to
Hmm.
make sure that you have those all over the place.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, common question I get, and I'd like to get your perspective on this, are how did you list your project experience on your resume? Did you have a separate projects section? Did you list that under work experience? What
No,
did
I
that look
didn't.
like?
Mine was formatted work experience at the top, then education, and then projects, and then skills and interests.
Okay, even though your work experience at the top was what going into
We
this?
had so rhythm, I think it's a little unique as far as boot camps go in that they set you up with an internship. It's 3 weeks long, but it's a real life internship with a real life company at the end of the program, and so that was like the top thing on my resume. And it was really just that and my previous career, as owning my business, doing clarinet repairs. And those were the only 2 things in my work experience at the time.
Yeah, I found that, yeah, sure, education is great, projects are great. And I even have a poll on LinkedIn right now that's active. But the biggest differentiator for junior developers is relevant work experience, even if
Mhm,
it's just a few month long internship, right? How
mhm.
long was your internship, by the way?
It was only 3 weeks,
Yeah,
but
3 weeks.
it
Okay, which is still
that
huge,
was
right? That gives you a line item on your resume
Mhm,
that probably 95% of other developers, or at least outside of Rhythm, wouldn't have had.
mhm. Yeah,
And there are
yeah.
ways to duplicate that even outside of your particular boot camp. So services I often recommend, there's one called the Collab Lab Codes,
Mhm,
and there's one called Chingu, Chingu. But really all they are groups of junior developers that come together. They're mentored by a senior developer and they're put to work on some volunteer nonprofit project. Free to join, but what it does let you do is lets you put that line item on your
yeah.
resume and differentiate yourself. Awesome. Okay, so I want to talk then a little bit about your schedule. You mentioned that high level earlier. There was 1 day a week where you all got together and you just bulk applied, easy apply on LinkedIn. What were you doing the rest of the week?
So, I will say that right out of boot camp, I actually did a hackathon. I didn't go straight into like full-time, kind of 9 to 5 applying. Yeah, so I did a hackathon for the first like couple of weeks of after. It was something that a friend and I from class found on DevPost, and we found one that matched. It was like a GraphQL hackathon for a company called Stepson that had come out with a framework for GraphQL that or a technology for GraphQL that, they were trying to promote and have more people use, and so they had a hackathon. And that was actually one of the most helpful things that I did because it really helped me avoid getting into the grind of applications. Like, it kind of helped me just be happy about coding still and, like, remember what I was doing. But on the flip side too, it was, like, kind of a real world project. Like, yes, we had done this internship, but it was also this real world, application that we were building, and it was like a business idea that, we didn't go anywhere with it, but we had to develop it. And I would say, I know this is a little past the resume, but, once I was getting screening calls, it was really, really useful to talk about. And so, yeah, just really, I highly recommend doing a hackathon if you can, because it also builds on like your collaboration skills. And it's kind of weird, but it even helped me tweak my resume because I was starting to understand the things that I was doing a little bit more. Like, I feel like when you come out of boot camp, like, you've just learned so much in such a short amount of time, right? And, like, you haven't really had a chance to process even, like, what the heck you just did, you know what I mean? And so you have all this stuff on your resume, and it's like you understand it, but anyway, doing the hackathon or any sort of real world project, I think people who, like, contribute to open source or anything like that also have a similar thing where they're just like, "Oh, okay, I'm really doing this in the real world, like, and I get it now. I can talk about it better now." So I did the hackathon, but I did make sure that I was applying to at least a couple of places per day. Like, I just wanted to get out at least a couple of applications per day. I did that plus the mass apply day, and yeah, that was my basic schedule.
Did you add that hackathon to your resume? Was that a component?
I did, but I did afterwards, and it's, like, on there now, but it wasn't on the resumes that I eventually, for the jobs I eventually got offered.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear how that obviously, we don't know how that could have impacted things because I feel like a lot of times what recruiters are looking for is somebody who's passionate about the
Mhm.
industry and doing that extracurricular stuff you're talking about, hackathon, open source, all of that is just evidence of your passion. Because anybody can put, passionate software developer
Yeah.
on their resume, but you want to be able to show it, right? Some way.
Mhm.
The hackathon's a good example there. Well, good. Any other big takeaways from your job search that you want to make sure the listeners are aware of? Or if not, looking back, is there anything that you wish you had done differently?
I don't think there is anything that I wish I had done differently. Because I think that all you can do is, like we talked about in the beginning, take kind of the data that you're getting back and then adjust from there, right? So, I could say that I wish my resume had been more awesome from the beginning, but it's like, all that mattered really was that I shifted
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. Like, once I realized, you just switch, to like try not to get too attached to anything in your, anything that you have. Like, even if you worked on your resume for like weeks and weeks and weeks, right? And
Mhm.
then now you have to like redo it again. It's just, you have to just like let it roll off. And that's
It's
just
not,
kind of like the thing, just like
yeah,
letting so
it's
many,
not personal.
yeah, it's not personal. It's just like, you gotta find what's gonna work. And then,
Hmm.
just remembering that even when you're sending out all these resumes, I think, at least in my experience, when you talk to anybody that's gotten their first job, the amount of jobs that called them back for any piece of the process, right? Like, is so, so, so minuscule. And that's just the reality of it. And so I think it's just maintaining an attitude of, you know, I guess one other thing I really tried to live by, and I try to tell, because I do mentoring for new grads now out of our boot camp, is, let the company reject you. Don't reject yourself because you get rejected from 100% of the jobs you don't apply for. So just like trying to maintain that sort of positive mindset about it is really good.
Well, especially with easy apply. Yeah,
Yeah.
low effort apply, low impact if you get rejected, who cares? Move on. So you might
Exactly.
as well try.
Yes.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much for sharing your story today. It's all the time that we have. So I just want to thank you again for coming on and thank you to everybody that's listening. We will catch you all next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs Podcast. We hope you found today's interview helpful as you navigate your own job search in tech. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide. Thanks for listening and have a great day.